So welcome everyone to the June edition of the Building Operators Association of Canada monthly meeting slash webinar. This will be the last, hopefully the last of the webinar only meetings, at least for the immediate future. We are planning on going back to our in-person meetings, and we're in September, on September the 13th. And with that said, we're working on seeing if we can get something together to record the meeting, do a hybrid meeting, at least for the presentation part, to keep our little library of presentations going, which hopefully everyone is using to value. We've covered, I don't know, a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, not all have been recorded, but there's definitely a lot of information in there, and hopefully, if you guys find it useful, let us know, and if you have any ideas for presentations or speakers thereof in the future, then reach out to Les or myself, and we'll try to make it happen. So, of course, we have the trade show coming up in October. So October the 18th, and it's going to be, which I believe is a Tuesday. Actually, I don't know if it's a Tuesday.
I believe it is.
Look at a calendar. Is it? And it goes from around noon to 6, loosely, something around that. So it's the afternoon. It's at the Danish Canadian Club, and I believe we only have a couple spots left. So we're sounds like we're full. Is that right, Les?
Absolutely. And we have such a good variety of people that are coming to this trade show that have tables. We have people that we haven't met before, in our city, but we have all the good people as well. We got James Electric, we got Cougar Technical, we have BGE is going to be there, Elevate Lightnings, Chisholm, we have Johnson's Control. So we have such a good variety, and these people are going to be showing the best of the best of what they have to offer. And it's only been recently that we have gone back to doing trade shows. So people are wanting to meet with each other, find out what's going on. So the opportunity to meet with other building operators, as well as see what's going on in this industry, not only for, protecting the clients, but what's going on in these very smart buildings with smart controls. So it's going to be really interesting. We also opened it up to other associations, people like BOMA and the CREW, which is the Calgary Real Estate Women's Group, IPE. We've given invitations out to other associations. So you can see that maybe it's not just the building operators that you want to know. Maybe it's other associations that you would find is a better fit. We're open. We're here just for education of building operators. And so it is important that you come down, take a look at what's going on in the industry, also what's going on with other associations as well as our own. So it's going to be a place where we can meet old friends and maybe find a few new friends as well. So come on down on the 18th.
Yeah, absolutely. So and again, looking forward to seeing everyone again in September. Again, it's at the Danish Canadian Club, our regular meetings, 5 o'clock. And come on, come all. And don't forget, it's always helps all of us out if you sign up for your membership, $60. You can do it on the website. Don't forget on our website, which is www.boacalgary.com. On there, you'll find copies of these presentations. You can download our monthly magazine, which has got all kinds of info in it. interesting articles and some stuff. And so looking forward to seeing more activity. And I think, the in-person relationships is certainly going to help. It's been a long couple of years here, but 2.5 years, I guess it will be. And so hopefully we're coming out the other side, and looking forward to seeing everyone. So tonight's presentation, or this evening's presentation, is going to be Barry Paisley. And Barry and I used to work for the same company years ago. So, and I don't know how long ago that was. I can't remember. 20 years. It's back in there somewhere. He was a security guy, and I was the HVAC and controls guy. So, whatever,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We did stuff.
We did stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, Barry is well, what are you? Some kind of a regional manager or something or other?
Yep.
With Hikvision, which is kind of interesting because you get to see and purvey the cool toys that we're all interested in, toys and tools, I guess.
Absolutely.
And as a building operator, we all know, I'm sure most of us have had to deal with security systems a great deal. I guess it depends really on the type of organization and the building that you work in, but we see a whole variety of stuff. And so when something goes wrong, guess who the guy is? So it's the operator. You got to make it happen. So the more you know about it, the better. And the more that you understand the different applications, the more, or the easier it will be to improve what you have, and over time keep the thing current and up to date and useful. And so that's pretty much the key. What we're talking about today, in 5 years, some of it will be true, some of it will be different, and no different than controls. So it's something that you definitely have to keep up on, and that's where it's nice to have friendly faces like Barry that live in the world and sees the stuff, knows how to apply it, lots of experience in the industry and in many buildings, and so Barry is a good resource to us all to see us through. So with that, Barry, now that I've pumped you up,
Thanks,
let
Mark.
a little bit of air out,
Yep.
and you'll
Exactly.
be fine.
Exactly. Well, thanks, Mark. Yeah, a lot of people don't really get it, but especially building operators, I think you guys are the biggest influencers on what goes into your buildings and what tools you can make use of. And I think what I'm here to present to you all is some of the new cool stuff that is available in the security industry. A lot of it is very specific to the manufacturer I represent. I'm the regional sales manager for Hikvision right now. And so I'm going to walk you through some pretty cool technologies, some really cool enhanced artificial intelligence, hence the AI in the title here. And I think you'll like what you see. So without further ado, we'll get going here. So I'll give you a table of contents of what we're going to cover. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Hikvision, just so you know who we are as a manufacturer. And then from there, we're going to move into the technology. We're going to talk about products like our color view cameras, and I'll explain specifically what that is. AccuSense technology, which I think a lot of people are very excited about. Actually, I think more people are more excited about the color view technology. Thermal solutions. Not everybody thinks about thermal cameras, and realistically, the economics of thermal cameras has come down substantially. So now they're affordable in many applications. And lastly, I'm going to talk about some brand new technology that we're releasing, which we call tandem view pan tilt zooms, or PTZ cameras. So those are the topics, and I'll try to stick to them as best I can. Real quick snapshot of Hikvision. We've been in the industry since 2001, but realistically hit the North American market about 2011. We are originally a Chinese-based. We are a Chinese-based company, but Canada is its own entity. We are Hikvision Canada for a reason, and that's because we want to make sure we represent the interests of Canadians on all our products and solutions. Tons of employees across the world. We're not a small organization. We've got R&D centers worldwide. Montreal is actually one of the biggest R&D centers in the whole organization outside of China. And then lastly, we actually have some what we call experience centers that we've developed in Canada. One is in Toronto, and a brand new one is opening up next week in Vancouver, which we're set up to display all our technologies and ideas that we have available to you. And like I said, I'm just giving you guys a quick snapshot of what's available, and we could talk about at a later date, if ever get a chance, we could talk about more technology we have available to you as well. Here's Hikvision Canada. We are a large organization. I think we're a total of 27 employees across Canada, taking care of varying territories. Right now, my sole purpose and experience, my sole purpose of existence right now is Southern Alberta. My division of my territory actually went from all the Midwest down to just Southern Alberta. But that's going to change here in July, where I take on a more national role with the organization. Let's jump into it. Color view cameras.
All right.
So color view, what does that mean to you? Well, I'll tell you what it means to you. That means we're going to provide you images of color images 24/7. You are going to have color images in applications where you don't have color images. The key to color view cameras, we'll just talk about some of the key features. It comes in multiple form factors. We're just showing a couple here. But one of the key features with color view cameras is 24/7 color images. How do we do that? We do that with exceptional imaging quality and exceptional low light level performance. 0.005 lux, I know that's just a number to everybody, but let's talk about what that means. I'll give you a different number, 0.002. So you can see where that is compared to 0.0005. 0.002 lux is equivalent to a moonless clear night. We are giving you color images down to 0.0005 lux on our product, which is a phenomenal light level performance without additional illumination. And as you can see on these cameras, or may not recognize, these little lights, these little windows at the bottom of the cameras are actually illumination for when you have that lower lux level that or 0 lux, let's say, where we don't have any lighting that can give us an image. Ultimately, these cameras have that white supplementary light to give you light when you have 0 lux, which means I'm going to give you a color image, not a black and white image, which is what we're all used to when the lighting goes down too low. It switches over to IR illumination and then black and white imaging because the IR cut filter pops out. Another thing we've got here is AccuSense technology, AccuSense generation 2. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but I really wanted to focus on the color view performance, and then we'll touch a little bit on the AccuSense technology inside the camera as well as we go through this presentation, and then we'll dive deeper into it in a minute. Audio. These cameras actually have the capability of audio. Not only do they have a built-in microphone, so if you want to listen to something that's going on and record it, you can actually speak through it as well, because certain models with the SL have a speaker output on them. It's not the greatest speaker, but it still gives you the ability to interact with people in the view of the camera. Or you can turn around and use as an alarm and trigger an audio output, a squawking siren, and I'll show you examples of that. And a strobe light, and the strobe light flashes and it creates an alert that they've been under surveillance, or it may create that ability for when you need that face shot, they say, hey, what's that flashing? And they look up at the camera.
That's
they
awesome
are
for parkades, eh?
Yes, very much so.
Big Brother's watching. Yeah.
Yes.
I like that.
Water and dust resistant to IP67. So, I mean, we're talking about a quality product here. Moving on, this is the offering of the product line we have for color view. And as you can see, we have all form factors. And as noted previously, the SL models, which are the bottom left-hand side here, all have that strobe and siren capability. The one of those three there that's interesting is the last one that lists pan tilt camera. So it's a fixed lens camera with a full pan tilt capability, which means it can swing 360 degrees around and tilt down. So really you can point it at an object or something that you want to look at all times. It's maneuverable remotely from your mobile device, which could be a phone or a laptop, so that you can actually reposition it. So when we use conventional cameras at night, like I said, we end up with a black and white image, and it's really hard to see any detail of what's going on and to see who or what is in the scene. For example, we look at the last image there, guys jumping the fence. Well, when you give a description to the police of what's the person look like that was jumping the fence, oh, well, he was wearing a gray shade of jacket and a gray shade of pants. Well, that doesn't really help me. So when we switch to a color view solution, now we start to get the detail we want. And that is the game changer here. When it comes down to circumstances where it may be a safety issue, where we need to see more detail, or it's a police matter because somebody has broken into a facility, etc., and you need to give an accurate description for the police, now we're going to get the color detail that we need to be able to provide the information. So color view benefits, as I said right out of the gate, seeing color images 24/7. Capturing detail and key information, because you collect a lot more detail in color than you do in black and white. It's a much better visual experience, as you saw in those two sample videos. The detail that you pick out is way better than what you would get on a standard black and white image at night. The image is much crisper because all lighting conditions, you get the same quality image. Yes, when the lighting conditions drop, you do get a little more of a muted image, but you still get a really good quality image. The supplemental LED white light means that when I have zero lux, I have no lighting whatsoever, that camera is going to be able to illuminate the area so I can see what's going on. The cool thing about this technology, the color view technology, it's available in our IP model cameras, which is IP-based, network-based cameras, or our high definition over coax. So a lot of older buildings have coax infrastructure in place. And what happens is, we have a technology called Turbo HD, which allows me to transmit high definition video over coax. Well, with that turbo technology, I give you color view technology as well, because all that technology is at the camera's edge. The other key thing here is this second gen AccuSense that we talk about, and that's human and vehicle detection. I'll get into more detail on that, and I think you'll really like what you can get out of it, especially as an operator. When you have to go back and look at video, I'll show you a sample of how quickly you can find a chunk of video based on basic information. And lastly, out of the color view benefits is the built-in microphone and speaker, and then the strobe light option that is available to you as well. So one of the things I promised Mark is to show sample videos of the product in action. And some of them are mocked up events and some of them are real world events. So we'll get into it right now. So as you can see in the scene, we actually have an excellent image already, but when that white light illuminator comes on, we end up with an even better image. You lose that foreground shadow that you had before. This is another cool thing. We're providing this technology with 4K resolution, 8 megapixel resolution. So now you can see the detail in those images. Now here's a comparison of a 4K with IR and a 4K with color. Substantially better. We could actually probably read that plate. So the technology itself really lends itself to more detail in the images that you get. This is another sample video I've got. This is actually from one of my colleagues out back east in Ontario. A customer was having problems with vagrants hanging outside of his shop. I'm sure we all have that problem in downtown Calgary. And he set one of these cameras up, and take a look and see how quickly it changes the environment.
Attention, please. The area is under surveillance.
That's a canned voice message. You can see the strobe lights.
Attention, please. The area is under surveillance.
It creates just enough of an irritant.
Attention, please.
People move
the
on.
area is under surveillance.
So I could see this being valued in a number of places that I visited downtown. So I'm sure you guys could see a great opportunity for this type of technology as well.
Mm.
And there's another solution using the same idea. It's called LiveGuard. And it's just a new terminology that we've added into the color view cameras with the human and vehicle analytics. And like I said, I'll get into more detail on what that is in a minute. So LiveGuard is a technology that's dovetailed into that second generation of color view cameras that we just released. Here's one of those canned audibles that I mentioned to you with the strobe light going off as well. It's just enough to act as a deterrent. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but hey,
This
at least we
is
can
private
mitigate the issue.
property. Please leave my property now.
Now, this is the other thing you can do here is you can
This
actually
is
have
private property.
pre-canned
Please leave
audio
my property
or your
now.
own voice as audio on the system. Plus, as I talked about before, it has the ability to do live audio as well.
Wow.
This chunk of video here is really starting to display what that AccuSense technology that I mentioned earlier is all about. This is where we're not capturing anything and we're not triggering anything based on a ball going back and forth. But as soon as we introduce a human, off goes the strobe. And if there was an audible link to that as well, it would trip the audible as well. So we've kind of taken out those false events that could happen. Again, another side-by-side comparison of how well the color view camera works. Smart cameras, smartphones typically show you what your eyes will see as well. You can see there's a marked difference in that. And then this is just a quick comparison of a camera with IR versus color view. You can see there's a huge benefit of going to color view now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
that'd
promise
be really good for street surveillance, which a lot of buildings are having to do a lot
Absolutely.
more of. And part of the challenge is trying to follow the person from camera to camera as
Right.
well. So, but
Right. It's funny you mentioned that, Mark. Unfortunately, it's not part of my presentation, but I got another technology that'll actually give you that ability to easily follow a person camera to camera as well. Might be my next presentation for you guys. So I promised you I'd get into AccuSense technology and explain what it is. And so, like I said, in that color view camera with exceptional lighting performance, we also add another technology called AccuSense. And so basically our AccuSense technology helps you take your security solutions to the next level. And the reason it does that is we now allow you to have the ability within a camera to distinguish between a vehicle and a human, or moving leaves or a ball. And we can then distinguish that to the extent that now it makes it easier for to operate your system. I'll show you in a second what I mean by that. So what AccuSense really does is algorithms in the camera itself. So it's actually at the edge where the camera is installed, and it sees all the motion or all the events that are going on. But what it does is it says, hey, I'm going to flag this particular event as a human because it meets the algorithm for a human. Or if you've chosen it to be a vehicle, it says it meets the algorithm for a vehicle, and therefore I'm going to flag that event as a vehicle event. But it just basically distinguishes all the activities or all the objects in the field of view to be specifically what you want to watch for, which is human and vehicle in a lot of cases. And then what it does is it filters it out, and it'll trigger an event based on what that is. So for the example, if it's a human walking into a field of view, then it says, okay, I want to set up an alarm. Now, when I say alarm, that could be that strobe going off, or it could be notification to an operator that, hey, somebody's on the property that shouldn't be on the property at this time. So it creates that ability to trigger that event so that you get a real world event that you want to act on, not the trees blowing in the wind, clouds blowing through the area, and snow falling, right? It's going to give you real world events, and it reduces your false alarms to become real alarms. And one of the other things it does is it allows you to do what we call quick target searches. And I'll show you guys an example of what that's going to look like here in a second. So like I said, AccuSense allows us to activate alarms based on information we want to know, not just your basic motion detection, which a lot of systems are configured under these days. And more are starting to move to more intelligent technologies. but AccuSense is our key technology that gets filters out that noise for you. So we talked about quick target searches briefly. I'm going to show you a sample video here of a quick target search. And this one actually is impressive because look at how fast, and I think this video clip is short enough that you'll understand it is fast. So basically, we want to look for a vehicle that's going to be in this area because we had a vehicle go missing and we want to know who was involved. So quickly, they go into Smart Search and they say, I want to look for a vehicle through a specific camera. And you can see they choose that model of camera right there. And they choose that it's going to be from 7 p.m. to 11:59. And you can see all these events that happen, but we're looking for a specific vehicle. So you go through the thumbnails and you find your vehicle in question. Quickly, you'll see that we identify the vehicle in question, that one right there. And we see that this incident sees that vehicle driving off at, looks like it's 18:17, so 6:17 p.m. So we know what time or when that vehicle went. Now we want to say, who took that vehicle? Who drove off in that vehicle? Well, what we do is we turn around and we change our search parameters now. Instead of doing a vehicle search, let's do a human search on that very same camera. But now we can tighten our time parameters down to 1800-ish. And we can see who actually touched that vehicle at that particular time frame. We know it drove off at 1819 or 1818. So here's our person. So how much time transpired? 2 minutes? So within 2 minutes, I was able to identify the vehicle and when it left, and then identify the person that actually went away. I mean, this camera is a long ways away from that area, but we could see, because this was a color view camera, or it was good lighting, one of the two, that that person actually was wearing a red jacket and dark pants. So we even have a description of who it is as well. So right on the NVR, we have the ability to do these searches because of a technology called motion detection 2.0. It enhances the motion detection triggering by adding in the AccuSense technology, the human and vehicle filter, and give us a better quality image of who it is. So I'm going to share another smart playback. This is right off of the NVR. And you'll see in this video, when they're viewing playback, they can change how they're filtering. In the bottom row here, you'll see there are filters for human and vehicle. Smart searches is clicked, and very simple way of searching video. And again, this is right on the NVR itself. So in this case, they're going to look for motion that happened in a specific area, and we want to look for a vehicle. So this is after the fact. So we pick our detection area that we want to see motion, and we want to see vehicles that move through this area. And in the timeline there, you'll see these little red hash marks, and those little red hash marks actually indicate when motion was detected in those areas, and specifically a vehicle. So it kind of jumps through it, and you can see there's a vehicle parked over there, this van pulled through. So it actually allows you to very quickly search for vehicles when they leave, come and go, etc. But in this case, we're specifically looking for when that vehicle left. So we've identified when it left, and now we're going to switch to the human search and find out who took the vehicle. So this is right off the NVR, just a very simple way of searching for activity. And you can see there's a real quick search, and you have that person walking up to the vehicle, checking it out, and eventually getting in it and driving off. So this AccuSense technology is a very, very important to allow operators to do their job better when they are asked to go look for a video, or when they know they have to go look for a video.
There's a quick question. Does it have a function where, you know, if there happens to be a security guard on site, that it would alert him to certain activity, or does it have anything like that?
Sure does. So all of our equipment, so for example, recorders and cameras have the capability of sending notification to a mobile device. So you could send notification to a person when an incident happens. It could be as simple as even a guard patrol that's out patrolling the city, and they end up with notifications on sites that have the cameras and NVRs set up on them as well. So some of the features, highlights of AccuSense is really its active deterrent. And when I say active deterrent, I'm talking about that strobe light that we talked about that was on the color view camera. We have the same thing in other cameras in our product line. So what happens is it recognizes it's a human and or vehicle. And because it recognizes that event and you set that up as a condition you want to have an alert happen, it'll actually use its internal audio outputs, send notification, and trigger a real-time event based on that activity. Applications for this, obviously for BOA, it's buildings, commercial buildings, high traffic areas. First place I think of is alleys, loading docks, areas you want to make sure you don't have people rattling around. Parkades, another example. A very good solution for this type of application. Some of the highlights too is that the AccuSense technology is not only in our cameras, but we've actually built into very specific models of our recorders, our NVRs, network video recorders, and our DVRs, digital video recorders. So you could have an existing analog system, and I'm going back a bit of time, but you could have an existing analog system and change out the recorder, the DVR. And when you change that DVR out, now I can give you that technology of AccuSense on a number of channels on that machine, which means now you have the ability to make your old analog dumb system intelligent all of a sudden. And now you're getting real events as opposed to motion events when things occur. Continuing on here. So I got a couple of sample videos of AccuSense technology, and we'll just go through these. So one of the key things, again, AccuSense technology uses what we call motion 2.0. It's the combination of motion detection, however you set that up, and the filtering, the human and vehicle filtering that we're going to be doing. So the reason I brought this video forward is it shows you how quickly you can set up things. Saw them draw their box there around what area they're wanting to check. Here's what we go into the recorder. Typically an integrator will set all this up for you, but this has the flexibility as an end user. You can actually go in and set up your own information. So in this case, they're just setting up the motion detection box that they want to have triggers on. They set up the notification of alarm center or surveillance center. That's pushing the notification out to mobile devices. And then they enable the audio and light alarm making. So that allows that strobe light and that audio to go off. Problem with it, the way it's set up with just motion though, is we get triggered by trees and leaves and stuff in the field of the camera. So now let's turn on a filter. So not only did the ball not trigger the motion or the alarm, but the trees are not triggering alarms either. Human didn't trigger it because this is actually going to configure it to be a component. And based on the vehicle rolling into the field of view in that intrusion zone, it actually triggered the event. Now we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to make it human open. So you can see the human was the only thing that triggered it. Let's prove it. We're going to roll a car through. Again, he went through the staging zone, but he did not trigger an event. So this is an enhanced playback, and what we're going to do here is we're going to turn on the smart feature. So the blue timeline indicates continuous record, and then each of the segments, depending on what you choose as your filter, human and or vehicle, it'll bring up in the little red hash marks. It'll indicate where that event occurred, what it was. So-
gotta love the energetic elevator music for sure.
Yes, exactly. So AccuSense benefits. What's the benefit of AccuSense technology? Reduce false alarms. You're not waiting through a whole bunch of motion video to determine what's going on. You get real-time event notification because you're now getting an event based on a human and/or vehicle. Enhanced human and vehicle detection. I mean, that's something that's very unique. Quick searches, as we saw, you could quickly search for an event based on those filters of human and vehicle. And then the enhanced ability, both in the AccuSense cameras on both the color view and other models, we have a strobe and audio alerts that can deter criminals during activity or street vagrants or what have you, whatever you want to deter. Another product I want to kind of jump into, if we can continue, is thermal cameras. So historically, thermal cameras are an expensive venture. I was with another manufacturer before, and I did not sell a lot of thermal cameras, even though I did have quite a good following for thermals. But nowadays, thermals have come down in the market quite substantially to that they can actually be utilized in very simple applications as even a residential case. I'm going to focus on some new product that we just released very specifically, and to educate on some of the technology that thermal cameras can deploy for you. One of the models that we have right now is these turrets and bullets. I call these the Heat Pro series. One of the key things about this is the newer models where you see the new star there. Those are all higher resolution thermal images. Really cool thing about these cameras is they're not only thermal cameras, but they're 4 megapixel optical cameras at the same time. So you see on the face of both of these, you see two little windows. Both of those are cameras. One's a thermal camera and one's an optical camera. So it's a fairly high resolution in the thermal world. It has a strobe light and audio capability. It has the ability to do that AccuSense technology, and you'll see that's a common theme through all the product I'm going to show you. It has the ability to do a strobe light and audio alarm. Thermal does multiple things. We can use it for perimeter protection. We can use it for fire detection, and I'll show you a sample video of that. And we can also use it for temperature detections as well. So think about a mechanical room where you have a pump running and you want to, let's say, for example, that pump runs frequently and you don't want to have to check it all the time. We can set it up so a thermal camera watches a pump, and once it hits a certain temperature range that you set, let's say it's 80 degrees Celsius, if it hits that temperature, it's time to go shut it down and do a preventative maintenance, as opposed to what normally happens. There's no temperature sensor on it, and that pump breaks down, and now you got to go change it. So this is one way that we can provide additional services through a camera system of watching an area and watching a specific device. This camera, and I'm going to run through these quick. This camera also has a plus or minus 8 degrees Celsius accuracy. You'll see that change in a minute when I change models. Reduce false alarms because we're using that human and vehicle filtering. And it actually has a VCA, video content analytics range. It actually has a fairly long range for detection of human and vehicles as well, based on the lens as you choose through. This is the exact same camera, but as you can see, the red highlighted T in it, this is a higher accuracy camera. Its accuracy is plus or minus 2. This is the one that I would use if I ever use it for fire monitoring, or if I used it for equipment monitoring for temperature. But this model is great for that kind of application where you might have a piece of equipment you want to monitor with a camera. It comes in a bullet as well. Again, 2 lenses. This is the lower accuracy, plus or minus 8. All the specs are the same for this camera. And then we have the higher accuracy, plus or minus 2 degrees version, and in bullet as well. What you'll find here is we have a little bit longer lens on these, so you have a little longer reach for these when you have to position your camera a little further away. The other one I want to talk about is this PTZ. So this is actually a pan-tilt zoom camera with a thermal imager on it as well. And that thermal imager has an accuracy of plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius. So now I can use this camera to watch equipment, multiple pieces of equipment, because I can move the equipment, move the camera around and position it on a piece of equipment and do a temperature reading. I can also use it for fire monitoring of an area. And lastly, the important thing here is the temperature range of this is minus 20 to 550 degrees Celsius. So we're definitely going to be able to see a piece of equipment before it fails and what that temperature is. You can see here we're allowed 10 points, 10 areas for temperature readings. The last item is what we call an occupancy thermal. This is a camera that's designed to do occupancy. It allows you to do detection of humans in areas as well as counting. But what it does is it's not a camera that produces an image. It just uses the thermal imaging to create the presence detection or counting capability. So key applications for for thermal cameras. This is an example that I think of right away is parking lots. Parking lots are hard to cover off. Optically, they're hard to do, where thermal cameras have the ability to do it much better because they have the ability to see in any lighting condition whatsoever. So if it's a dark parking lot, you're going to see the exact same image as you would see in a light parking lot. One of the things I'll explain to you guys is if you take a look at these two pictures, it looks like it's a black and white image. It isn't. It's actually a thermal image. And what happens is we do something what's called fusion. We take that optical image and we overlay it into the thermal image, and that's why you get so much detail in this thermal image. Everybody's used to that rainbow colored imaging that you get with thermal cameras, or just black, what we call black hot or white hot applications. This overlays an optical image with that thermal image, so you get a ton of detail. And how you can really tell is if you look at the bottom image where that truck's driving away, you see the bright light underneath it, almost looks like a cloud coming out from underneath it. That's actually the heat coming off of the bottom of that truck. So it's actually a thermal image that you're seeing, but the detail is immaculate because of that fusion, that overlay of those two images. Fire prevention. So doing temperature measurements to stop fire from starting. This is a recycling facility, for example. It could be the garbage room at a facility, at a commercial building, right? It could be just somewhere where we have concerns where a fire could start. You could do it with fixed cameras or the pan-tilt zoom. Factories, this may not be totally applicable, but it is applicable in some cases where we have areas that we want to watch materials to make sure they're not getting too high of a temperature. Now, if you look at the bottom left image there's actually multiple temperatures being read there. On the right-hand side of the thermal images, you will see the scale of those temperature readings as well. Smart buildings. This is where that thermal presence, I call it a camera, it's really a sensor. The thermal presence sensor works. It can be used for turning lights on and off. It could be looking at occupancy loads. It could be looking at temperatures as well if you needed to. So it has its applications in buildings, office buildings, rooms, etc. It has its applications for nursing rooms, hospitals, care facilities. I'm going to show you an example of a perimeter protection function. This is not necessarily a commercial building, but just think about applying this to a commercial.
Is thermal technology beyond the reach of homes and small businesses? That's not true now with Hikvision's Heat Pro series thermal cameras. Heat Pro thermal cameras are smarter, easier to use, and way more affordable than the conventional thermal solution. With turret and bullet options, the cameras can be conveniently deployed for perimeter protection, temperature measurement, and fire prevention with great accuracy and agility. Bringing professional protection to residential and small business scenarios. Heat Pro thermal cameras feature powerful video content analysis, or VCA, in a variety of complex and challenging light conditions. Deep learning algorithms embedded in Heat Pro thermal cameras enable not only better target identification, but also higher agility and adaptability. Hikvision's Heat Pro thermal cameras can always distinguish human and vehicle targets, even when they are overlapped, so that users respond only to targets of real concern.
In this case, we're filtering for human activity.
When people gather into groups, Heat Pro thermal cameras can still accurately identify each individual and classify them accurately.
So in this case, we're actually identifying they are humans walking.
When exposed to high temperatures, background infrared radiation can be quite similar to that of human or vehicle targets, which may impair detection by conventional thermal cameras. Heat Pro thermal cameras can accurately detect targets even in such situations. Even if the targets move straight towards the camera with comparatively small perceivable displacements, Heat Pro thermal cameras still won't miss any of them.
And that all has to do with that identifying it as a human target.
To have the professional protection of Heat Pro thermal cameras in place, users only need to take 3 simple steps to configure the VCA functions, with setup time down to 30 seconds. Heat Pro thermal cameras can be combined with various products for different needs. When connected to an NVR, Heat Pro thermal cameras can provide highly efficient security protection of places like villas, communities, and groceries. When linked with AX Pro Hub, Heat Pro thermal cameras capture real-time video clips to verify alarms whenever an intrusion event happens. Heat Pro cameras can also be deployed in several locations and managed in a centralized way for demanding projects like small retail chains and business parks. The
larger
flexible
commercial
product
buildings as well.
combinations ensure that varied needs are easily met. A new door just opened in the world of video security and its thermal imaging. Now is the time to step into a new kind of light. Hikvision Heat Pro Series thermal cameras. Professional protection made simple.
And when we're talking about the scale of economy on our thermal cameras right now, we're talking in the vicinity of $1,200 to $1,500 a camera. I mean, and that's probably close to the install price too. So very economical in the solutions. This is a quick video demonstrating the fire protection function. And
Fire
in the case
moves
we're
fast.
using
In a very short time,
camera.
a fire can cause extensive damage. So if a fire starts, it's crucial to spot it right away. So today, we would take a Hikvision thermal camera to test how fast it can spot a fire. This test will be conducted by professionals in a safe place. Don't try this yourself. First, we install a Hikvision thermal speed dome. Then we rotate it to see the whole test site.
No, not real world examples, but
We configure its temperature measurement function
and
and smoke detection function. First, we set up a fire to test the temperature measurement function. As soon as the detected temperature reaches the preset 80-degree threshold, a pre-alarm is triggered by Hikvision's thermal camera.
So that
A real-time image of the spot is pushed to the PC client and the mobile app. Once the temperature reaches the next threshold of 100 degrees, a formal alarm is given by the thermal camera. You can see the temperature reading of the spot on the image. Then we set up a fire again to test the smoke detection function.
Think about it as an early detection as opposed to waiting until a smoke detector triggers, right? You're fully involved when the smoke detector triggers.
Hikvision's thermal camera spots the smoke from the fire soon after it starts and gives a
So with
alarm
that
using the
smoke
smoke detection function. The camera offers flexible adjustment of the alarm temperature threshold, making suitable for a wide range of settings. It spotted the fire risks quickly and sent instant alerts, giving you enough time to respond. These cameras push real-time images when spotting a temperature anomaly or a fire if you can see the situation before you get there. The thermal speed dome has a wide field of view and features 360 degrees rotation to measure temperatures in multiple locations. Hikvision thermal cameras can bring professional protection to various scenarios such as logistics parks, recycling centers, factories, charging stations, and more. Hikvision thermal camera for fire detection. Stay ahead of the flames.
So you can see the benefit of a fire detection function in a camera. So the last topic I'm going to touch on is our tandem view pan tilt zooms. These are really exciting in my opinion because this is something we just launched recently. It's something I've been waiting for to come to Canada for us because I think it's got some huge benefit. Through my career and back in the day when I worked with Mark, I never sold PTZs. I never sold pan tilt zoom cameras because unless they were manned by an operator, they were pretty much useless. They were good as a fancy fixed camera because 9 times out of 10, they were sitting in a single position watching all the time. Now, if you got an operator or a concierge in the building that's always watching cameras, then it's total value. But a couple of points here. Limitations of conventional CCTV systems. A single bullet camera or a single camera of any kind is looking in one area and your coverage is only just in that area. Meanwhile, you lose sight of that person, that object that's moving through the area. So it's only got a limitation of what it can see. On a pan tilt zoom, we have the other case where the camera moves or zooms in on an area, you lose your field of view quite a bit because I'm watching something very specific. Or worse, it's watching something that's going on and then it's doing a pattern, let's say, and then it moves to a different preset. So you miss out on what's going on because it moves on to a different view. What we've done here is if you decide you're going to put in a PTZ pan tilt zoom camera and a bullet camera or whatever form camera you're going to use, a fixed camera, you're doubling your cost. You're doubling your cable install. You're doubling your material cost. You're doubling the installation. And it just makes it tough to put together a solution. So we came out with integrated cameras. So as we call them, tandem view cameras. The one on the left is just a single imager with a PTZ. The one on the right actually is a 180-degree view off of one camera on the top two, and on the bottom is your pan tilt zoom. Beauty part about it is it's one system design, 2-in-1, has wicked image quality. We talked about color view. Well, guess what? We got some of that. We talked about AccuSense. Guess what? We've got that as well. And then, of course, the intelligence, where we talk about AccuSense and everything else. But like I said, you purchase one camera, you install one system, and it has one IP to manage in the system when you put it in. The first one that's excellent is the first thing that I find that's really excellent about this when it came out is the fact that the fixed camera on the top is a color view camera, and so is the bottom. So therefore, I have the ability to actually see low light level performance images and very, very nice quality images, as we showed you previously with the color views. On the version that has the 180-degree wide view, you can see by the image below that those two 4-megapixel imagers are giving you one single stitched image of a 180-degree view. You can see quite clearly across this whole intersection where the camera is positioned. On the single picture imager, in this case, sorry, I'm going to back up a second, make sure I didn't skip something on you. No, on this single imager camera, so we got a single imager on the top and the PTZ on the bottom. What we have the capability here to do is the fixed camera still continues to watch the crosswalk. Meanwhile, I can control the PTZ and look in on a specific area, like a office by the looks of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that camera is fully flexible to do what it needs to do on the PTZ side of it. Now, one of the other things we do is we do what's called smart linkage inside the cameras. We connect the fixed camera to the PTZ so that when the fixed camera sees activity, the PTZ can do some activity there for you. I'll show you an example of that right here. So there's a guy who's going to cross a line. The PTZ turns around and looks down and says, hey, that guy crossed the line. I'm going to zoom in on him, and now I'm going to keep an eye on him from here on out. So it gives you the ability to actually monitor people and activities. Maybe it's a vehicle, maybe it's a human, with the pan tilt zoom. Meanwhile, you're still getting that full field of view with that fixed camera at the top of it. With the PTZ, we have functionality in there. We talked about smart functionality, so we can do manual tracking. So here's an example where the operator is actually going to do manual tracking based on its targets it sees. So that's manual tracking. Or we can actually let the camera do the work and create targets within the fixed view, and then the PTZ takes over and zooms in and follows, which is what we call smart tracking. So in this case, a vehicle went into the intrusion zone that we set up, and it smart tracked that vehicle through that field of view. Another thing we talked about before that was available in those color view cameras and then other cameras that have AccuSense, we have a strobe light functionality, and we have an audible capability as well. These are canned or custom, depending on how you want to set it up. 30-meter strobe light, 30 meters of audio alert. So very functional in its alertness, ability to alert you when something has occurred. So to talk about these a little bit more, the 7-inch tandem view camera has a fixed 4-megapixel camera with a 4mm lens on it. It's color view technology, so 0.0005 lux, as we talked about before. It has a 4-megapixel pan tilt zoom with 25 times optical zoom or 32 with 0.005 lux, which is still very good performance. It's what we call our dark fighter function of our product line. You've got a 30-meter white light illuminator for the color view camera. We got a 200-meter IR function for the PTZ, because obviously that PTZ can look much further than the fixed camera, so we need more illumination in the area. We got the strobe lights on there to let someone know that they've been caught, and then the built-in speaker to act as a deterrent as well. The other one that we're talking about, the 8-inch tandem view camera, this one specifically has 2 imagers, a 4-megapixel on the top. They're color view imagers, and it gives you that 180-degree view. It has a 30-meter white light illuminator, so we can see out into areas that are close by. We have a 4-megapixel PTZ again with 0.0005 lux performance. So this one actually has the color view level performance on it, and it's a 42 times optical zoom camera, so we can reach a long ways. Hence, I have a 30-meter IR light on that pan tilt zoom as well. And then lastly, it has a strobe light on it and an audible speaker so that you can still do those audible deterrents or the visual deterrent with the strobe light. So 3 minutes left for questions.
Oh, well, hey, you've done well. I have a few questions, if you don't
Sure thing.
mind. And I'll try not to drag it out a little bit. I have a number of questions, but you knew I would.
Okay.
So one of the first question, I guess, and of course this, as an industry, we've been fighting for this. We'll probably be challenged by this forever, but certainly, you know, expectations have changed a lot over the last number of years, and that's with integration. And the reason why I'm saying integration is it's one thing to integrate with a door lock control system, an access control system, which is, in bigger buildings is invaluable. But, integration has always been a pain. I can remember back in the 90s in high security environments, we had to build the integration manually, and that was tough. Yeah. So doesn't mean it can't be done. So has our industry helped us out at all?
I want to say yes and no. With Hikvision, we've come up with a central management software called Hike Central. And in Hike Central, we have some integration to some functionality. So when I say some, we have the ability to integrate to some access control platforms, or we have our own access control platform that integrates into it. Mm-hmm. Video intercom, we also integrate with on our side of things. But outside of that, so for example, in the building operators world, because I had a lot of experience seeing a lot of that with you when we worked together, there are other things they want to integrate to for maybe a control system of some kind. Yes. We have a middleware software available called Optimus, and Optimus allows us to actually potentially integrate some control stuff into Hike Central and bring the two together to some level, right? So there is some integration available. It really depends on a case-by-case basis of whether we can do it.
And again, well, Michael Buck's got a couple of questions here, and then we'll kind of get back to the integration thing.
Sure.
So his first question is to do with PTZ cameras you were just talking about.
Yep.
His question is about you know, the cold weather that we have here in Canada and
Sure.
how they do with that for an outdoor application. And then also he's
How
asking,
about we answer
how
that
does
one
the
then?
smoothness of the PTZ camera with following people without jerky motion as they walk by? So how smooth
Right.
is it, I guess, is
Right. I
is
mean,
what-
one of the things here, I guess we'll get to the color. We'll do the temperature one first. So to answer the temperature one, all of Hikvision's product that we have in the marketplace, minimum outdoor rated cameras are a minimum of -30. So we are cold start -30 cameras. I have thousands of cameras in the prairies that all operate in -30 or colder, no problem at all. Specifically to that pan tilt zoom though, to answer Michael's question there, we are rated to -40 on the PTZ side of things with those particular models. They are definitely a higher level model camera, so they are a -40 rated camera. To answer the question about the jerky motion with regards to the smart tracking function. So if it's a smart tracking one we saw, the only one that was doing smart tracking actually was the car, when the car drove through the scene. And that one specifically, and in fact, I can go back a bit here. That one specifically was actually quite smooth. But this one here was all manual tracking, if this is the one Michael's referring to. When we zoom in on it, this is a manual tracking. So this is somebody actually manually following that person in. And same with the one previous where the line crossing occurred right here. This one was a fully manual track as well. So really it zooms in on the area because it shows where the motion detection was seen. But then after that, it's but it also may be the quality of our transmission of the broadcast here, because it may be a little bit jerkier in the video motion as well. But ultimately, smart tracking is quite good, especially with slow speed activities. But I believe this one is a manual track on the PTZ. So hopefully that answers this question.
Good. I had a question, if you don't mind.
Sure, Les.
Do you guys, you talk about portability, but do you have a camera that would work off of something like Bluetooth? So that if you had problem areas, you could quickly relocate it to a problem area?
I've got nothing that would, so Bluetooth has limitations of like 30 feet of range. So that we don't have anything that's for quick deployment like that.
All right.
But you know, you work in the industry long enough, you find out there are people that do get very creative. We've actually got, as a manufacturer, we actually have a Wi-Fi kit. So it has Wi-Fi cameras that you can connect to the local network or directly back to the recorder. I've seen a guy actually deploy them in cases where they just install the camera near a plug, and they put those heavy duty magnets you can buy from Princess Auto on the back of them, and they fasten them directly to the girders in their building wherever they have a metal surface for quick deployment. But beyond that, I really don't have anything that's not inside. Let me rephrase it. I have nothing inside the commercial world of Hikvision that would be that rapid deployment Wi-Fi / Bluetooth solution. But we have other arms that are in the retail world, and it's a product called EasyViz, which is a plug-in the wall camera that is Wi-Fi capable. In fact, I'll just turn my camera back on. I turned it off because of bandwidth issues, but I'll just show you quickly to answer your question, Les. This guy right here is a little mini pan tilt zoom camera.
Yeah, I see it really well. Yeah.
Right. mini pan tilt zoom camera. You just got to connect it to power, and once you connect the power, you connect it to a Wi-Fi space, and it'll allow you to see it on your mobile device.
Excellent. The other question I had was, I know that over in Europe, they're doing a lot of facial recognition, and in some commercial aspects, they're looking for problem people.
Yep.
Do your cameras work in conjunction with that type of programs?
We've had a huge ask for that in the last little while.
Yeah.
I want to say in the last 6-8 months, we've had big demand for facial recognition. And for the exact purpose you're mentioning, for example, retail spaces where they have problematic people, commercial buildings where they have problematic people. Yes, we absolutely do have facial recognition capability. It's not in any of the cameras we displayed today, but they're definitely a specialty camera we have available.
Do you have time for a couple more questions?
Sure thing.
Yeah, I got a couple. So we started off on the integration things, so I'm not gonna roast you about that too much. It's just, with all things, it's a challenge. Another thing with, IP cameras, bandwidth, you're chewing up a lot of communication stuff, and you can run into problems. And so what I wanted to stress was to make sure that when you're planning changes in your building or you're trying to solve some problems, it behooves you to ask the right people the right questions about the technology.
Yep.
And because once it's put in and it's wrong, everybody's disappointed. And so
Yep.
up front, it's so critical to get the correct information. Camera systems, you've got multiple applications, every location is different. And so it does take some talent and to do this. And unfortunately, as it's no different in controls or whatever, not everyone in the industry is, up on their game. So, you gotta ask the right people the right questions. And I've usually, what happens is, and hopefully there isn't too many watching this, some decision maker that has no technical knowledge will make a decision on something, and then it's up to everyone else to figure out how to use it without, it just becomes a disaster. So as you mentioned up front, one of the important roles for building operators is to make sure that we're speccing the stuff properly, so that we don't end up trying to make honey out of dog shit. I mean, it happens so often, and I've spent so many hours trying to fix something that somebody just didn't know any better and didn't get it right. And anyway, I'm venting a little bit, but a little bit of communication would definitely help out a lot.
Yeah. To your point, Mark, that's why I said, right in my opening statement, is that building operators are influencers. You can definitely help make the right decisions for your end. And that's where you become more educated, spending time in presentations like mine or other manufacturers to understand the technology that's available to you today, to make better choices on what's going to deliver into your building. I'll put on my other hat, my past hat of a system integrator. The next thing is to make sure you select a system integrator that understands the technologies available today. I mean, I've got system integrators from Bob in a truck, as I call them, little 3-man, 4-man shows they'll bang out 10-story buildings with no problem and actually put together a better solution than some of the national type dealers. But then again, I've got some great national dealers and I got some great local system integrators as well. So choosing a system integrator that understands your technology, that's where I can come into play because of the region I operate in, and Calgary being the core audience today. I know every integrator we have in this marketplace that can definitely help you out with our product specifically. If they want to go with another product, that's where I kind of have to step back and you have to influence the situation at that stage. But again, putting on my integrator hat that I used to wear years ago, segregated systems, keep your camera system strictly on its own network, right? And then make the machine that's recording it all accessible publicly for yourself and everybody else in the organization. Those are key configuration structures that you should do to make life a lot easier for you and everybody else.
Well, and I don't know how many hours of heartburn that I've spent trying to get information off of DVRs to give to the cops, and it's just so some of the things you're mentioning here, and I mean, we didn't even get into DVRs that much, but
Right.
or NVRs, but I mean, you could talk all night about that, but at least there is some hope, because man, you wouldn't believe the time, and just and all you're trying to do is get a conviction, so that the
Yep.
guy isn't back a day later in the same parkade stealing another car. It's like, holy man.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
I got another comment here by Michael, and he's got a comment. I was referring to the intimidation factor of people being followed by the camera if
you look at the camera.
if they're looking at the camera. If it's
Yeah.
jerky, then people will tend to ignore the camera, as it appears to be just a camera. I see what he's getting at.
Yeah,
That
I
happens
get
to be
it too.
moving the same direction that they're walking.
Yep.
And the smoothness has a particularly intimidating factor.
Yeah, it does.
Well,
And
fair
I
enough.
totally agree with that. And in all reality, the movement of the camera is typically less noticeable, because 9 times out of 10, like the example we've got on the screen right now, that camera is a long ways away. You probably wouldn't even be able to see that it's actually moving, because it's such small increments to cover a big space, right? So
Mhm.
it just, he is right though. Smooth movement of a camera kind of becomes a little more intimidating, because then you actually get the feel that you're being tracked, as opposed to a manual movement, which typically is a little jerkier. The smart tracking is quite smooth, and I think will serve its purpose as a deterrent.
So the other integration thing I just mentioned in closing here is risk mitigation is part of what we all do, and when we have an event that happens anytime, but at night, and this say it's for a boiler room or a mechanical room, whatever. So there's 3 things at play. Say if we've got water, coil froze, we've got a flood. So water bugs tell us that there's water.
Yes.
We have no idea how much water. And so and you're thinking, man, it's going to take me half an hour to get there. So sometimes that's where, a little bit of coordination with stuff can be, you could save a lot of money, because if you can get the
Yes.
water shut off fast enough, you could save $1 million.
Yep.
But
I mean,
try
to
to get it at least before it goes down the elevator shaft. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And to that point, Mark, that's maybe where thermal cameras come into play, right? Thermal cameras can watch spaces. We don't have to watch for high temperature. We can watch for low temperature as well. So we can watch for that temperature when we get to that threshold of 3 degrees Celsius, 5 degrees Celsius. That typically will give you enough time to get there and shut off water before things freeze up and start destroying pipes, etc. Right?
And another thing in the mechanical room, typically there's just heat detectors, because
Yes.
smoke detectors don't always work that well there, but in that application. But by the time a heat detector goes off, holy shit.
You're involved. You're already fully involved. Your average heat detector set for rate of rise, and that rate of rise is rapid. Well, when it's rapid, there's flames licking at that heat detector 9 times out of 10.
So you see what I'm getting at is a little bit of coordination of multiple technologies. Now, it's not for the enunciation of there's a fire. It's like, okay, I know there's a fire, but how big is it? You know,
Yeah.
because seconds count. So there you go.
Right. And you know, to that point, you know, as I said, and you asked earlier, we have the ability to view these on mobile devices. So you can get an alert sent to you that a high temperature event has occurred, or a fire detection or a smoke detection event has occurred. You get notification to you. And when you get that notification, not only do you have access to the temperature that it's read, but you have access to an optical image showing you exactly what's going on at that particular time in that field of view. So it creates a very good stop check to make sure, is this a real event or is this a an error, right?
Yeah, and so, you know, the again, you know, back in the 90s, we were even doing some stuff like this, but you know, with the toys and the integration being a little bit better, or at least having some way of doing it, there's so the other thing that comes into it is, from a safety point of view, say if you have a call out at night, you're up in the mechanical room, you're alone, be kind of nice if there was a camera on you in case something went wrong.
Yep.
That
Totally.
means somebody else off site can be keeping an eye out for you. Anyway,
Totally.
just thought I'd throw that in there.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
All
Sounds like
right,
more
well,
cameras. That's all I care.
Yeah, you know, go nuts. And you know, the other thing too is and this is probably the biggest mistake, is when planning systems, you know, from the very beginning, you got to plan for expansion, because they always grow about 4 times bigger than they were ever originally planned for. So that's just another reason why you need to be talking to the right people to get the correct advice and to set up the platform for that particular application properly. And so that's when, you know, not only product knowledge, but building knowledge is required. And you know, a property manager isn't necessarily going to make the correct decision on that.
Right. Right.
And so then you end up with multiple systems, and it gets crazy.
Yep. Well, Mark, you know, you have all my contact info. If anybody's got any questions from this presentation live, or if they happen to observe it after the fact, be more than happy to help anybody out. If they need an integrator to answer any questions, I can definitely help out with that as well.
Awesome. Well, you've been more than gracious. It's always nice to talk to somebody that's knowledgeable about the stuff.
Good.
So that was fun. And hopefully looking forward to seeing you at the trade show. If you don't get a table, it's no big deal. You just show up anyway.
Make an appearance.
But it'd be nice if you showed off some of your wares. But you know, whatever. Do you have any final thoughts there, my man?
Well, I don't. I want to thank Barry for really giving us the opportunity to listen about security. And security is very important, especially in this time of getting started again and making sure that everybody's feeling comfortable. And security means comfort. I also want to take the opportunity to thank our platinum sponsors. Epic Building Services are one of our platinum sponsors, as well as Gentech Field Services, all generator needs, both for life safety as well as power distribution, and Cougar Technical Services for all your needs of installation and startup equipment. So those are our platinum sponsors. We're a not-for-profit organization. We count on our sponsors to help us through the loops and valleys that we experience along this road of education of building operators. So thanks to them, and thanks to Barry for giving this presentation. And I hope to see you further on this very same topic.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Barry.
All right, everybody. Have a good night.
All right.